think it's very important, no matter who you are, is to enjoy life and dance.
Coming to you from Forager Brewery in Rochester, our town. Singing a new song about Rochester, here is Zach Zurn.
There's a place, it's where I call home. Tune in and turn up the radio to hear this song, an anthem for all who do their shopping at Apache Mall. Nice. We got a corncob tower, lake of silver, building of gold. We got the people that will care for you, the young and the old. We'll even gather round together when it's bitterly cold. That's how you know you're here in the Med City.
Nice, very nice. Welcome to our town.
Thanks for having me.
We need a theme song too.
Let's do it.
I knew that you were going to do a song about Rochester, but I have to say that's probably the first song I've heard that works Apache Mall into a lyric, so I have to hand it to you.
Thank you. I tried to be a little clever with some lyrics there. So.
And you're kind of new to our town, sort of. From here, came back. Tell us a little bit about your musical journey.
Sure. Yeah, I've been singing for as long as I can remember. I grew up in northern Texas and went to a fine arts academy and sang in choral competitions. And when I moved to Minnesota, at about middle school, high school age, I picked up the guitar and started playing in punk bands and garage bands and all these kind of things. Fell in love with the craft of songwriting, the craft of pairing lyrics with melodies, and going throughout high school, playing in bands, touring around the upper Midwest, end up going to college for music, learning a myriad of instruments, continuing to fall in love with that craft more and more. And now living in Rochester, based out of here, music is my full-time job. I work with artists and do licensing work, and it's really fun.
Really? So the inside, the back room kind of stuff too, not just the performing.
Absolutely, yeah. Probably the majority of my work is behind the scenes, helping artists craft their songs, recording, composing for short films, documentaries, jingles even here and there.
Okay, and you're coming to Rochester wasn't just a random event.
We moved here because my wife's job. She's a youth advocate at Mission 21, which is an anti-trafficking organization here. Yeah.
And you had a background, little in Rochester, Winona area.
Yeah, I went to Century High School, go Panthers, and went to Winona State for college, and then we found our way back here.
So how's the music business? You hear how much it's changing. I go to iTunes, and now people don't even go to iTunes. My kids are teens. I don't know how to give them the gift of music because there's no there to hand them.
Yeah, people consume music so differently than even when I was a kid. I'm only 25, but in the 90s, if I loved an artist or a record, I'd go to Best Buy or whatever the store was. I'd pay $12 to $15 for a jewel case that probably had a crack in it because some punk kid stocked it wrong at the Best Buy. And I was committed to that record because that $15 was hard-earned cash for me. And I played it over and over and over. But now we just have an $8 subscription to unlimited digital music. There's benefits to that, but it's a very oversaturated market these days.
So for the artist, yeah, they can get their message out to a lot of people, but there are a lot of people out there now, whereas before the labels kind of controlled who got the pipe, who got the
Absolutely.
music.
You have to work really hard. There's kind of a conversation I have with other musicians where you kind of got to poke people and say, hey, remember, amidst the crowd of musicians, I still exist and I have good stuff. Listen to me.
And I think it's interesting that this is how you are finding your way to make a business out of this, because it's not purely making your own songs, but helping others. You're finding, is that a need? I know you like doing it, but that's the business today of a young musician.
It's a huge need. I do the same when I write my records. I just started a record process last Thursday, and I work with another producer. Although I could record, another set of ears who is a professional really helps you take your song to the next level.
And folks want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, they can go to www.zurn.com, ZZURN.com, or find me on the socials at Zurn is my handle as well.
Okay, and did you come up with those websites yourself?
I did.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Good, just check it.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks, Zach, very
Yeah.
much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Zach was the winner of the Med City Beat Rochester is My Home songwriting contest. The Med City was written and performed by Zach Zurn and produced by Jim Fricker. The music video by Ross Bellinger can be found at themedcitybeat.com.
Our Town is brought to you in part by the following amazing people and organizations.
The new Clements Subaru proudly partners with award-winning KSMQ Public Television. Clements Subaru of Rochester. Clements' clear value promise is to make buying a Subaru fast, fair, and simple. Prow Company, a hands-on commercial property leasing company. Leasing commercial properties in Rochester, Minnesota since 1952. Realtors and brokers welcome. Prow Company. The Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, and the citizens of Minnesota.
And the members of KSMQ Public Television. Thank you.
Well, that was fun. Nice work, Zach. More stories ahead on Our Town. Ice fishing at Foster Aaron Park, driverless shuttles on the street of Rochester, and the history of community activist Marion Sloan. Coming up next, we hear from one of Rochester's finest musical organizations, the Rochester Symphony, on Our Town Culture.
Hi, I'm Jerry Lance. I'm the music director, which means conductor, and also the president and CEO of the Rochester Symphony Orchestra and Chorale. Sounds like an awfully long title, and it must be because I'm working all the time, so I earn every letter of that title. Funny thing about the way I grew in music was when I was a kid, I started taking lessons like everybody else. And like most other people, by the time I got to college, I thought, well, I'll play some music, that's it. I majored in economics, but then out of college, I decided to go back to the musical thing, went to grad school in music, and a career was started. I've been with the Rochester Symphony Orchestra and Chorale now, my 37th season, by golly. Well, since I've been here, certainly the artistry has really increased. We have two, and now that I'm president and CEO, the business head as well as the musical head, I've got to be concerned with more than just artistry. The artistry has grown terrifically, and now we're working on really getting the community support financially and in patronage so that we can move very strongly into the future. It's quite a variety of people who fill the musical chairs of the Rochester Symphony. Some are full-time musicians who go from one performance to another. Others are teachers, either at the school level, college level, who enjoy performing. Some in our very highly educated medical community are working at Mayo Clinic or other medical facilities or in other professions and do it on the side. And it's a beautiful thing because medicine and music are known to be good companions, and we have such a variety of individuals, it's hard to pin them down, but they're all wonderful players. There's something about live music that is just really special. That's why musicians do it, and that's why people go to concerts. Our motto, our mission at the Rochester Symphony is bringing great music to life. and that's what we try to do. When you come to a Rochester Symphony concert, you meet it right in your face. It hits you in a way it never can, no matter what kind of stereo system you have or how good your sound system is for your TV. You're right there in the presence, and you see, and I hope not smell, but you see the sweat. You feel the energy. You see the passion of the performers in a way that no camera can capture truly. So we give that experience to people, and we hope a lot of people who came to the concert will be watching the broadcast as well to relive that live magical moment that is a live concert. If painters paint their pictures on canvas, musicians paint their pictures on silence, so we need the silence to paint our pictures the best. But when the piece is over, go berserk with the noise you make with your hands or your mouth or your stomping feet or whatever. And if you want to stand up and cheer, nobody on stage will object whatsoever.
For more information about this story and other Our Town features, connect with us on Facebook, Twitter at KSMQ #OurTown, or ksmq.org/OurTown.
Speaking of, the Rochester Symphony and KSMQ Public Television are putting some beautiful music out into the airwaves. If you want to catch the symphony's next performance, they will be presenting From Death to Life on February 4th and 5th at Lourdes High School. Tickets available at rochestersymphony.org. And if you can't be there in person, KSMQ is broadcasting the performance Sunday nights beginning February 12th. Bicycle fans, take note. The Rochester City Council has moved the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee that was created in 2006 into a city advisory role of greater importance. The committee will now have input to the planning process for the Rochester Public Works Department, the Parks and Rec Department, and the Rochester Olmsted Planning Department. If you are interested in serving on this board, contact your local city council member. Did you know that mountain lions are now being seen again in our fair state of Minnesota? 'Tis true. Find out if Rochester residents have any reason to be concerned. Also, the executive director of the Cougar Network will be at the Quarry Hill Nature Center Tuesday, January the 24th at 7 p.m. to talk about cougar range expansion and what that means for our ecosystems and community. Mac and cheese, hot beef sandwich, chicken and dumplings. What's your favorite comfort food? Well, you just might find it at the American Legion on Friday nights. Serving from 6:30 to 10:30 p.m., they dish up old home favorites along with live music. Located on First Avenue Northwest, you do not have to be a member to enjoy these familiar and comforting dishes. Everyone is welcome. And you might need some of that hot, satisfying food before you head outdoors with us. Up next, we explore the icy depths on this week's Our Town Walkabout.
I've had luck deep, and I've had actually a lot of luck shallow too. I'm Brent Kraske. We're in Foster Aaron's Pond, Rochester, Minnesota, fishing for rainbow trout. Something to do outside, a chance to actually catch fish year-round. That's my favorite thing to do. Fish finder will let you know if there's something down there. Normally I bring a heater no matter what, but today with the sun the way it is, usually stays warm enough inside the house. I got more waxies if you need some.
There he is. Little rainbow. This is a sand beach right here, and I've always had kind of good luck on the sand beach. For some reason, you can keep 3, and I think I will keep 3 if I'm fortunate enough to get 3. about 25 degrees and no wind and beautiful. Don't even need a house today. There's some pretty big fish in here. I've heard of some 6-7 pound fish, rainbows coming out of here. I've never got one. Got one. Nice little rainbow. That should be good. My wife loves trout, so that's why I'm keeping them.
Transportation of the future is on the agenda for the city of Rochester.
This guy right here is going to tell us about possible changes in how we get around town. Stay with us.
Our past, remembering what made us who we are today. Brought to you by the History Center of Olmsted County.
Born January 28, 1846, Marion Sloan moved to Rochester when she was 10. Sloan recalled Rochester consisted of a log hotel, log post office and store, several log houses, and one framed one. Sloan started teaching at age 15 in the Old Central School before attending Pike Normal School and continued to teach for several years. After retiring, she owned a millinery and dressmaking shop. She also was an active suffragette. She heard Susan B. Anthony speak at Haney Hall in Rochester in 1877 and marched to promote the cause. She went on to serve as vice president and executive board member of Minnesota's suffrage chapter. In recognition of her dedication, the National American Women Suffrage Association awarded her a place on its honor roll in 1920, just months before the 19th Amendment was signed into law. After witnessing a century of change, Sloan died on January 25, 1942.
God-fearing mullets, afraid of changing in the tide. Sing it, choir.
The City of Rochester is exploring transit plans in the face of rapid development in the coming years, and they're looking for your input.
Nick Lemmer is the Communications and Outreach Coordinator for Rochester Public Transit. Welcome to our town, Nick.
Thank you.
Let's start with the basic big question. What forms of public transit are there in Rochester?
Rochester is quite a place, quite a unique place, and so we have a broad array of transportation. Look, we've got 2.6 million visitors to our town each year. We've got 36,000 people who work in the central business district. We've got a young workforce, professional. So we've got everything from an international airport for public transit, right down to bike sharing and everything in between. Rochester Public Transit, who I represent, is really the mainstay, the day in and day out transportation service for our town. And we service about 8,000 people every day. And that's with our fixed route service, with our ZIPS paratransit service, which is for those with developmental disabilities, Rochester Public Transit does about 2 million, or we'll do about 1.7 million rides in the coming year, and it's just a robust system that really supports.
And there's currently a transit development plan underway. Do you have any updates about what the vision of that is and how that's moving along?
Sure. The transit development plan is a 5-year roadmap for us to help us evolve our services to meet the needs of the community. It has management and operations is a significant part where we talk about what new services need to be provided to meet the needs of the community. We also take a look at things like capital and financing. So how are we going to pay for those new services that are needed to meet the community? So it's a program that we've been seeking public input for. We've had some preliminary ideas that we presented in October. We've refined those ideas into a transit development plan that should be ready to go in the next few weeks, actually, with a 30-day public period. And there's some exciting things in there, if I can share a couple of the aspects. It's a 5-year plan. We're looking here in the first year to start expanding our service. We're excited to announce that by mid-year we should have Sunday service, which has been something we heard from the community that they were looking forward to. We're going to try to expand services a little bit longer in the evening to compensate for third shift workers. Those are just part of the things in year one. Year two, we're looking at possibly taking another look at the routes in general. Optimizing the routes, adding additional routes, perhaps renaming the routes so they're easier to use. And by year 3, we may actually double the amount of hours that the buses serve Rochester. We serve about 70,000 operational hours right now, and that may increase to as many as 140,000 operational hours by year 3 of this 5-year plan.
Well, that's the thing too, with all the expansion and growth projected for the downtown area. How do you put forth a plan now, not knowing when or how big the growth is actually going to be? I mean, how do you do that?
Well, Rochester Public Transit in the Transit Development Plan has to have sort of a deliberate and methodical way to plan our capital needs. You know, we have to buy buses every year, and so we plan for what we think is the most predictable future. Obviously, there's a lot of plans out there, including Destination Medical Center, the Rochester Homestead Comprehensive Plan. A lot of things are being developed right now, but for our purposes, the Transit Development Plan is something that we can help us predict and plan for the very near future.
And people get around in so many different ways, and so there's talk of what they're calling multimodal transportation. You talked a little bit about accessibility. Can you talk a little bit about how a vision for accessibility or addressing environmental concerns might fit into this 5-year plan?
Well, the current fleet of buses, when we talk about sustainability and environmental concerns, our current fleet of buses is a really modern fleet. It's a robust fleet. It all uses clean diesel engines, for example. It all has low floors, which are extremely accessible for those with disabilities. And so we go out of our way as a matter of practice, day in, day out, to respond to the needs of the community, both in terms of accessibility and environmental friendliness. It's tough to predict what the future looks like, but we're doing our best to design really a multimodal transit system that is integrated, it's comprehensive, coordinated, and really sustainable into the future.
And then you're also dealing with personal vehicles. I mean, people's cars and so on, and integrating that. That's part of this discussion.
Absolutely. A key part of the system for Rochester Public Transit is our park and rides. We have 5 park and ride lot locations right now. We hope to expand that actually in the near future, in the very near future. Getting those 36,000 people downtown, Rochester Parking and Transportation, we operate downtown ramps as well. We only have parking for about 5,000 to 8,000 people downtown, and yet we have 36,000 downtown employees. So we utilize park and rides and other operations to efficiently move those people to where they need to be for work.
I think that'll shift, the conversation around car culture and how people are moving and sharing carpooling or using bikes,
But especially when they're driverless cars.
Exactly.
I mean, you hear, how much of that do you get involved with these things you're starting to hear on the radio, driverless cars and other technologies?
We generated a lot of interest earlier this winter when we sort of shared a story from our transit operator, First Transit, who is piloting an autonomous shuttle in one of the markets they serve on the West Coast. It's a buzzword. Transportation in general is getting a lot of attention these days, and it's an exciting place to be. But in terms of technology, we're always looking to see what's coming around the corner. I think nothing can be taken off the table at this point. The future we know will change, and so we have to be prepared for it. We can't be sort of affected by it. We have an opportunity, I think, both with the Transit Development Plan and some of the other planning efforts that are underway, the studies, for example, to sort of define that future, and all the technologies are on the table. No conclusions have been drawn. I'm certainly not going to make any headlines here, but everything's being looked at very closely.
And also how people get along. There's Uber and Lyft, those services that are coming in. That doesn't really involve you, but yet those technologies will have an impact if they come to the fore, when they grow.
They'll create one big landscape of transportation.
We have a young and professional workforce, and they have different attitudes towards mobility, even ownership, home ownership, vehicle ownership. So all those services will play into it. In fact, Rochester Transportation Parking, we are making room in some of our downtown parking ramps now for rideshare cars. So I think something along the lines of Zip car or some kind of car where it's a partial sharing ride kind of service that's in the very near future for us as well.
That's interesting. Do you foresee fewer parking slots and ramps needed because of the change that's coming and who owns vehicles and or not? You're not
The
ready
need for
to-
parking, I think, will
Yeah.
always be there. But there's increased pressure on the real estate. For example, if you can imagine a vacant surface parking lot in downtown Rochester is pretty prime real estate. So I think there's increased pressure on some of our parking assets currently, and so you might see a few more ramps in your future to compensate for those surface lots being taken by other kind of development activities.
And so you said the development plan is going to be public in the next few weeks. Is there any way that the community can give more public input? How can people connect with these issues and give their 2 cents?
Next week, on the 24th, there's a public conversation, not regarding RPT's transit development plan, but rather about these 4 integrated transit studies that are being commissioned by Public Works. These are the ones that are taking those 4 specific issues from the DMC development plan, and they're really examining them on a great level of detail that I think will bring those a little bit closer to reality for the people in Rochester. Things like downtown circulator, city loop, transit access authority, different things that are being looked at very closely in downtown Rochester to move that DMC vision forward.
Wonderful. Nick Lemmer, thank you very much. Learned a lot from Rochester Public Transit.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you
so much.
And thanks for joining us today on Our Town.
Keep in touch by sending us your comments and story ideas on rochester@ksmq.org.
We're visiting historic churches and glamming it up next week. I hope you'll join us on Our Town, the show about Rochester.